Hello and welcome to Sri Lanka 99.94 Cricket Every Day. My name's Mark Machado from the Murali End, and I'm joined, as always, by Estelle Devon from the Papare. Sri Lanka 99.94 is your new home for Sri Lanka content. I'll be dropping into your podcast feed and on YouTube or the 99.4 app several times a week. If you've not listened to us before, then part of the deal is that you've got to rate and review and leave a glowing review and leave us 5 stars and also hit subscribe. If you have listened to us before and you haven't done that, then you're a naughty, naughty person. Estelle, we're talking today about Sri Lanka versus Thailand. This is Sri Lanka's third game at the Asia Cup, the Women's Asia Cup in Bangladesh. We predicted last time we recorded, which was after their first 2 games, that they should win today. They did win today. We weren't looking for the win per se. We were looking for a slightly better performance. We got a better batting performance, but there was still a few issues with the fielding. I need to start off, though, by having a rant about the fact that I obviously live in the UK, and even though this is quite a serious tournament involving the continent's best teams, it is impossible for me to watch the Women's Asia Cup on television. I have checked all the major sports channels and also constantly flicking through all the Asian channels with the hope that one of them might be showing it. It is, of course, not unusual as Sri Lanka fans to be watching Pakistani cookery channels and then for them to transition from making Mata Paneer to showing Sri Lanka versus Australia T20 games. And I don't understand how this has happened. I can't imagine the rights were a lot of money. There is an English commentary team there doing it because I'm watching streams that I shouldn't be watching, and I'm able to listen to the commentary in English. So please, if you're in any which way involved in broadcasting and any which way can put this game and make it available globally, then please let this tournament be made available to fans in England, because there's a lot of Sri Lanka fans here in the UK. There's even more Indian Pakistan fans and Bangladeshi fans, and I'm sure there's fans of the other teams at the tournament as well. So anyway, rant over. Estelle, what was your take after the game today?
It was a much better performance, wasn't it, from the games we saw during the weekend, particularly that match against the UAE, which was disappointing to say the least. Today, much better performance with the bat. But again, it was just a couple of players really putting their hands up there and getting the runs on the board. So Sri Lanka will want, particularly Chamari Atapattu. Is she saving up some runs for the semi-finals, I wonder, or the game against Pakistan or Bangladesh? I hope that's the case because they're going to need her come the business end of the tournament.
Yeah, so we've had 3 games now. She's not done a huge amount with the bat. Again, she didn't bowl all 4 for her overs, which I thought was interesting. These runs have got to come at some point, right? And as you say, I've kind of like Sri Lanka. All they need to do really is beat Malaysia, and the results in the group stage against Bangladesh and Pakistan don't really matter. If she delivers in the semi-final, then that's all that really matters, right? Because today we saw other batters. God, sorry, that's terrible. Score runs, which we hadn't seen earlier on in the tournament. So, if Charmy's not going to get them, it looks like they're coming from other places. Today it was the opener, Harshitha. Got 81 at a decent strike rate, 117. It's good to see other batters in the runs, though, right?
Yeah, particularly Harshita. I think with her, the talent has never been in doubt. She's always been a good player, and I think debuted for Sri Lanka as a teenager as well. So obviously has been earmarked as one of the players for the future, but we haven't seen big knocks from her over the in the early part of her career. But what I love about her is over the last couple of years in particular, you can see there's been a massive amount of growth in the way she plays. She's not the same type of player as Atapattu, obviously. She's not the one who's going to be clearing the boundary consistently and getting those sixers, right? But she's managed to kind of create a kind of a style that suits her style of play. She can find the gaps quite easily. She's good on the offside, particularly square of the wicket. So she's managed to kind of, maneuver those things and keep getting runs consistently. I would say over the last couple of years, starting from maybe the T20 World Cup in 2020, after Atapattu, she's been the one who has been at least semi kind of consistent in that batting lineup. We haven't seen anyone get runs consistently, but she's been kind of there and thereabouts. So it's good to see. I think this is kind of the breakout tournament for her. I hope, because she's gone from strength to strength. 33, 48, and 81 so far. I think all three have come better than a runner ball. So that's another major, I think, a major thing. We don't talk about the strike rates in the women's team enough, I think, because apart from Atapattu, I don't think anyone's striking it over a runner ball. So that's really good to see from her. And did you know that this is the first time like this tournament is the first time she's been opening for Sri Lanka in international cricket? She's played at number 3 a lot. Number 4 has been pushed down the order, 6, 7, 8 sometimes when they want who they think are more fluent batters to come up the order. So new role, and she's done fantastically well so far. I'm really keen to see her go on to make some big runs in the next couple of games as well. We will be playing Malaysia, who, similar to Thailand, are likely to be a relatively easier attack to face than Bangladesh or Pakistan. So I think she will want to make that match count as well, and maybe, finish amongst the top run scorers in this tournament.
Yeah, and of course, she's only 24. She's got a lot of time left in her career, hopefully, and we're seeing new franchise opportunities open up in the women's game. And you wonder if, she's got player of the match the last 2 matches now for Sri Lanka. You wonder if, she'd be one of those players that teams around the world might take a look at, with the women's IPL starting up. And I believe there's a women's franchise tournament coming down the line somewhere in Pakistan as well. So, hopefully if she can, what we've seen with the men is, that they've had good tournaments, and that's given them opportunities to go around the world and work with different coaches and different players. And potentially that might, that could well happen in this scenario if she still keeps scoring runs. And, she's got to try and get more runs against Malaysia, and then make a bit more, grow her profile and get runs against Pakistan and Bangladesh. And hopefully she might, get these opportunities as they come down the line. Maybe end up at Fairbreak next season. I was going to call it Fairbank. I don't even know what Fairbank is. And because I think we can't rely on players to only develop within the domestic structure in Sri Lanka. I think now we've got to fully embrace the fact that players have got to go away and master their craft in other parts of the world, which is good to see. There was also, the innings was finished off by Nilakshi as well, where 39 with a very quick score in 39 as well. We probably don't talk enough about strike rates, possibly because Sri Lanka haven't scored enough runs to be concerned about strike rates. But that was also quite good to see as well, right?
Yeah, and that's the type of innings Sri Lanka wants from a player like Nilakshi De Silva. She, again, is not she's not a very big hitter of the ball, but she can find the boundary on occasion. It's very rare to see a player who can clear the boundary easily. So, I mean, Chamari Atapattu is in a different league, right? But Nilakshi De Silva has been used in kind of that finishing role in the past. Today, she came in at number 4. But that's the type of inning Sri Lanka will want from her. They don't want her, like we saw against the UAE, kind of taking up deliveries and just occupying the crease, right? They want her to be scoring quickly. That's her kind of role in this side. So it was good to see today. Hopefully she keeps going. I think with her, it's very much a confidence kind of thing. She's a good fielder as well, but then you see when she drops a catch, the shoulders drop, and the body language isn't great. So hopefully this knock would have given her the confidence to kind of go one better in the next game.
Let's take a short break. Once we come back, let's talk about the player who was dropped from the team, and also look at our bowling attack as well.
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
So Estelle, there was a player who was dropped. Shahani didn't make the cut this time. She was, I think she was in the team as a kind of all-rounder. She wasn't score many runs. They've got plenty of players who can bowl, so that doesn't really seem to be an issue with the team. As I said earlier, Charmery, who I think is probably one of the players most likely to get wickets, doesn't seem to be bowling all her overs at the moment. We also talked after the first two games about maybe having to mix it up a little bit, and maybe some of the players were a little bit too set in their position. What do you make of this dropping? And do you think she might end up coming back into the team later on in the tournament?
Actually, I was quite disappointed to see her left out. I know she didn't get runs or pick up wickets, and I think she's more or less a kind of an off-spinning all-rounder. But the kind of intent she shows with the bat is what Sri Lanka need, right? Like, we spoke about strike rates, the strike rates of Nilakshi and Harshita, and that's a major issue for Sri Lanka cricket, right? When Atapattu doesn't get runs, you often see them finishing, less than 6 runs and over. They finish with less than 120. But Shehani is the type of player who can score fast, and she's shown that kind of intent in the side, in the short. I mean, she hasn't played too many games, but she's shown that kind of intent. So I think it goes back once again to the conversation we had in our previous episode about, is it time to move on from some of those players who've had plenty of time to prove themselves and to, do something, at least one or two, match-winning performances. So someone like Malsha Shehani, she's not very young, she's 27, so not one of the youngest players in the side, but I feel like
Estelle, I'll just pause you there, right? 27 is still plenty of time left. Still plenty of time left.
I know. No, she does have plenty of time. What I meant was, like, there are lots of kids, right? 19, 20, 21 coming into the setup, particularly from like Sinigama CC. You have a lot of youngsters coming in. So she's not the youngest. She's not old, obviously. But what little we have seen from her is that at least she has that aggressive intent where, you're not trying to save your wicket, or you're not trying to bat out the overs, but you're trying to make some runs. And that's not something that we see from some of those batters in the middle order. So they've got 2 wicket keepers in the side. One is Kaushini Nutyangana. She's quite young, 21, I believe. Maybe it's time to give Anushka Sanjeevani some time on the bench and play all of them. In the last game, Oshadi Ranasinghe didn't play. I'm not sure whether that was Sri Lanka trying to kind of rotate the players around a little bit and give the girls on the bench a little bit of time in the middle, because Oshadi Ranasinghe is one of the top spinners in the side. But maybe, particularly against a team like Malaysia, I'd like to see both Nutyangana and Shehani playing, so that we can see a little bit of what they're capable of. You're not going to get big performances from young players if they're playing like one game every 5 or 6 matches you're playing. And Sri Lanka already doesn't play enough cricket, right? So you've got to give them that little bit of time in the middle, I think. So I was disappointed with Shehani being left out. Hopefully she comes in at least against Malaysia, so that we can see what she's capable of.
I sense some frustration there, Estelle, in you. Like, I sense you feel frustrated by, and I suppose this goes back to the rant that I had at the top of the show, right? it just feels difficult to get information about some of our players, right? It feels difficult. I looked early, before we start recording, I was looking for, match reports. There's very, very little has been written about this match. And I know there's a lot of things going on in Sri Lanka, right, that in some ways are much more essential to life than cricket. But cricket's still relatively important culturally in Sri Lanka. And I just feel like we need to, as and I'm not talking to you as journalists or broadcasters or whatever, I think as fans, we need to try and get behind them a little bit more, and not just putting out a tweet going, yeah, I hope the girls win. But actually, there needs to be more kind of content created around them. There needs to be more of a buzz around them because, they deserve it. They're the best players we have. And all right, they might not win the thing, but I think, in a way, we need to get behind them. Can we talk about the fielding, though? Because you weren't too impressed by much of the fielding today. This whole tournament, one of, a recurring theme seems to be that SL aren't the best fielders at the moment. Also seems to me that it just feels like they're just not doing their drills, right? They're not getting in positions that they need to be and, get around the park the way they should be getting.
Yeah, what's really disappointing for me, and this is like a frustration I've had for years with this team, is that, right, you can't control. There are very little things that you can control on the cricket field, right? You can't control how well Jemima Rodriguez is going to play, right? She's a brilliant bat. You can't control the deliveries you're going to get of good bowlers, right? But fielding is one thing you can control. But Sri Lanka has continuously been bad. And again and again, I think I was talking to one of my friends about this, one of my colleagues about this, about the fact that there are so many games that were close and maybe a dropped catch or miss stumping or miss field or something goes wrong and Sri Lanka lose as a result. And even against India in the first game of this tournament, Smriti Mandana was dropped in the first or second over, right? Fortunately for Sri Lanka, they got her out in the next over. But it's just really disappointing to see because that's one area you can do something about, right? Maybe you can't be the best batters in the world. Not everyone can be Chamari Atapattu. Okay, but you can work towards being one of the best fielding sides in the world. And that's what is kind of disappointing from the players' end, is that this is a problem that's been there for a while. It doesn't seem to be improving.
Yeah, and going back to the India game, was it Jemima actually? Did they drop her in the field and then got her out the next delivery? Was it Jemima? Or was it?
Yeah, I think there was a tough catch of Harmanpreet on the boundary, if I'm not mistaken. So that was okay. I mean, yeah, okay. Catches like that you can excuse, right? But just even the ground fielding and the wicket keeping, so many issues to address.
Let's take another break. When we come back, we'll talk about Sri Lanka's final 3 games in the group stages of the Women's Asia Cup.
If you love the language of cricket and want more, then head over to the 99.94 app and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
So Estelle, Sri Lanka got to play Malaysia, then they got to play Pakistan and Bangladesh, I think in that order. They essentially need, I think, the way it should work out, obviously this is dependent on everything else going to form, is that if they beat Malaysia, which we expect they should do and would do, then they will get to the semi-finals. You've kind of hinted that maybe Sri Lanka should kind of look to mix it up against Malaysia and play some of the younger, less experienced players. I don't know how management will feel, because if they play the less experienced players and they don't get the victory, then things could really look quite bleak all of a sudden. But maybe that added pressure might, we're Sri Lankans. We love to do everything last minute. We love a little bit of pressure on us. So maybe that added pressure might get a better result in the final 2 games. But what do you think they should? How do you think they should go about these last 3 games? Is the question I'm trying to get to here.
I don't think they should experiment too much against Malaysia. I just think Malsha Shehani should fit into that side. Apart from that, I wouldn't make too many changes. I would keep the same bowling attack. You have to have, Karanavira, Shadirana Singha in the side. So not too many changes. Just get that win under your belts. I think games like that, like the one we played against Thailand as well, are so important because mentally it also builds you up, right? I mean, Sri Lanka would have been really down after that game against the UAE because Atapattu spoke about it in the post-match press con as well. It was disappointing. I'm sure they were disappointed as well. So they would have been really down. So it's good to come out against a team like Thailand, get a good win. At the end of the day, it was quite a comfortable win, right? I don't think they'd be happy that they weren't able to bowl out the opposition, but a comfortable win in the end, so they'll be happy with that. Similarly, against Malaysia, not to underestimate the side, but they haven't really challenged any of the other teams they've come up against in the tournament so far. So I wouldn't experiment too much with the side, but I'd want to get like a good win under my belt. If I was in the management, I want to get like a 40 to 50 run win or win by 8 or 9 wickets, just to get that confidence level high before they face, hopefully go into the semi-finals and kind of get into the business end of the tournament.
And so if they beat Malaysia, are you suggesting that we kind of stick with our strongest 11 for Bangladesh and Pakistan, the final games, or do we need to kind of mix it up a little bit? I think maybe it might be worth trying to mix it up a bit slightly, only because I saw the men do that in the men's Asia Cup and it really worked. Though I suspect kind of tactically, I think the women's team are a little behind where the men are at the moment. And the other thing I should add is actually Sri Lanka have played Pakistan quite a lot this year already. So the 2 teams kind of know each other quite well. And I think they've played Bangladesh in the recent history as well. So, maybe they don't want to, maybe it is slightly more tactical than we're giving it credit for. I'm kind of getting a little bit excited, but I mean, like 2 wins in a row. Like it feels like anything is possible here, Estelle. Should Sri Lanka fans be excited, or am I getting a bit carried away now?
Well, it's like this. Make it to the semi-finals, right? And then anything can happen, right? So you've got someone like Atapattu in your side. You're going to have to think that she has to come good if you're going to beat a team like India, right? If that happens in a semi-final, or best case scenario in the final, that would be massive for Sri Lanka cricket. And just to come to the whole experimenting thing with if Sri Lanka does qualify beforehand to the semi-finals, I wouldn't experiment at all. I mean, they need as many wins as they can under their belt, so they'll want to play their best 11, or that's how I think at least, because this team hasn't been winning a lot. So they'd want as many wins under their belts as possible.
But what we want to see from the next 3 games, though, is Charma has shown some form, right? Because if she is the one player that if Sri Lanka are going to go and do something serious in this tournament, she needs to hit form at some point. I mean, and we know she can. Like, she's got it. She will hit form. It's just whether all these things can time together. Do you know what as well, right? I was just thinking when I heard you say get to the semi-finals, anything can happen. That is just the Sri Lankan psyche when it comes to cricket, but also to life, right? It's like, just get to this place and then see what happens. Just get to this place. It is simultaneously the most optimistic psyche any sports fan can have, and also really pessimistic as at the same time. There's a huge paradox in it. But because I just feel when I heard you say it, I feel like I've heard all my Sri Lankan relatives say that about almost everything. Just get to work and see what happens. Just get to this place and see what happens. But yeah, it's why we love the game, and it's why we love Sri Lankan cricket so much, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to get there, and then, like we spoke about before the tournament, semi-final is the kind of result Sri Lanka will be expecting. Obviously, anything less than that would be a massive disappointment. But beyond that, like I said, Chamariyatapattu is a player who can change a game in an instant, right? And when you've got someone like Harshita Samaravikrama who has also shown some form, and you've got the actually, Sri Lanka do have the bowling attack in those conditions to trouble even a team like India. So anything can happen.
Thanks for listening to Sri Lanka 99.94 Cricket Every Day. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Download 99.94 app and follow us personally at Mark Machado, or you can follow Estelle at Estelle_Vasudev. 1 as in the number 1. We put links for everything we do there on this podcast and beyond. Also, follow our network at 99.94 DM on social media. Follow for podcasts and commentary from the bat and ball world. Thanks for joining Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. We speak cricket.